In terms of race meta, I would like to have a whole podcast on that later. But for now, the only thing I can predict is that Marauders are probably going to get a little bit more popular, and it's going to be easier to level up early game with all three of the casters. You know, you got Templar, Witch, and Shadow all buffed elemental. Their early games are considerably improved, so you may see more of those characters in the top brackets rather than all just Rangers. Now that they've nerfed Spectral Throw, we probably won't see, Ranger, the top 10, all six, six of them being Rangers. At least that's what I'm hoping. So that's the only changes I can predict for now, and without going to a longer discussion, which we don't need to do now until we see more discussion on what they've added for this racing season.
Giuseppe asks the next question. What are the consequences of the market because of all the deaths? That's a good question. We're seeing a shift that wasn't really seen before when we had Onslaught and what's it called?
Nemesis.
Nemesis, right. People were able to level and progress fluently, and those items that were once awesome for leveling up teetered off really fast. So you had stuff that were worth like 3 chaos, 5 chaos at the beginning, and then like 4 days later, it immediately would drop to like an alk or a scour or fuse, very very cheap. However, since we are throwing so many bodies into standard leagues, these items are still in high demand, and thus they've been retaining their value, if not increasing, with the amount of deaths. So we are seeing a much slower progression, and those low level items are still holding very strong in the economy on invasion. That being said, I'm not sure. I'm sure it's dropping drastically. Those leveling items in ambush, because people are getting so much currency, able to roll so many items and progress with great gear. We're definitely seeing a different kind of market meta in this current state, in this current league.
All right, the next question was asked by Wonton Giku again. What do you think of the current state of Viper Strike, and how it can be brought back into viability? If you guys don't mind if I answer this one, I actually played one in Nemesis.
Go ahead, man.
Viper Strike, it can be viable. However, it requires a lot of love to be viable. The current state of Viper Strike requires 4 key wheels: the Corruption wheel, Method and Madness wheel, Entropy wheel, and Growth and Decay wheel to even be viable. Lastly, it scales best with gems, plus level to gems. So unfortunately, once you get a level 20 Viper Strike, unless you have a level 2 Empower or paired with a +1/+2 dagger, that means +1 to all gems dagger, and a +1 to melee gems dagger, weapon that can use Viper Strike, not just dagger. You're kind of SOL, to be honest. Viper Strike just requires too much love and too specific set of gear to even be viable. What do I think they need to do to change that? Make more options. Make it, instead of just leveling it via plus to gems, they can maybe make spell damage affect it, or make a plus to chaos damage on rings and stuff. But in the current state of the game, Viper Strike, I wouldn't even dare try an invasion. You need so much gear, at least a level 2 Empower.
Yeah, I think they could use more supports that work with chaos damage, that or more uniques. There are a couple of uniques that work, I think, with chaos damage, but overall, it's
I really feel
overall
like
it just needs more. There's a few more things that it needs added. Just like in the past, if you wanted to do melee before melee splash was added, it was a lot. There was way less options. I think we just need to give them time to, release some more options for us, essentially.
right. I think the build enabling, like the problem I have with Viper Strike and Puncture and stuff like that is the fact that they cannot leech, which is huge. If they had a unique that does 20% of your dot damage, regen as life, that would make it much more interesting. But there's too much of a drawback. You need to be overall super tanky to avoid damage in the first place. And Viper and Puncture is not really going to bring your life back by actively attacking.
Right.
So I think that's...
You're going to need regen, basically. Regen and flasks.
Right. Regen, flask, mitigation, and that's often going to forego lots of damage potential. But if they just threw in one unique, like a ring that converts dot damage into life leech, then I think they would be in a good spot.
That would be a really interesting unique, and make it not like Chevron's rare. Make it like Blood Dance rare. My favorite unique in the game. All right. Third prophecy here. You want? Go ahead. Go ahead, Hedgie.
I was just going to read the next question. Third prophecy says, or ask, what do you think about your most exciting moment in Invasion is, or so far? Question for everybody. So let's go around the table. Colby?
Let's see. That's a hard one because there's a few, but I think the most, initially, the first exciting thing was when I just beat Dominus solo, and I was like, yes, you're down. And then, like, whenever I was rushing ahead, and getting up to the first, that was the most exciting because of how hard the league was. That was my most exciting moment initially, and then after that, just finding a Searing Touch and actually being able to buy a 5-link. That was exciting. So I think that's what I like about this game, just finding that one item that enables you to either use it or sell to really get your build going. Or just like getting that, hitting that pinnacle of progression to where you're like, I'm home free, I'm in the ledge, I can farm now, or I'm home free, I have rarity and I'm farming piety. That's my exciting moments.
Most exciting moment in Invasion for me. That goes along with man moding. Whenever I get up to a boss, I'm like, this guy's gonna wreck my crap. Screw it, doing it. Man mode it. You plan your attack, you run away, clear his ads first, and when you kill him with just barely enough health, even though you're extremely tanky, that is, I love it. That feel you get. That's why I play hardcore. You don't make a hardcore character thinking you're gonna live forever. You make a hardcore character knowing you're gonna die, but to push your limits. I love that feeling personally, the adrenaline rush. How about you, Hedgie?
My most exciting moment was probably a period of time. Being at the top 50 ladder for a couple days was definitely exciting while, holding a full-time job and, on a regular sleep schedule. That was definitely a very exciting moment, only to be trumped by alt-tabbing, changing my playlist and windows, and dying to the Flicker boss. That was very upsetting, and it was a mistake that I promise never to do again. I was 9 levels over the zone. I got complacent. I killed 80% of the zone. The spider walked up and EK'd me and flickered me to death. Killed all my totems, and it was GG. I didn't even get a chance. It was heartbreaking. Stupid mistake.
That spider's scary business, man. All right. Next question was asked by Mibu for the win. Question: how do you feel about? Great. Hold on a second. How do you feel about the length of the leagues? It seems like around the 3-month mark, the player base takes a huge dive and the incentive to continue playing drops off. Any suggestions that GGG could fix this? Yes. I have been saying this since day one. They need to include some sort of incentives. A t-shirt is cool and all. The challenge system is great, but maybe incorporate 20 challenges, and then every 4 challenges you complete, you get something like a legacy microtransaction. Make it simple enough for the point where you still enjoy, but it's not like overwhelming, like such as the Seraph armor set. So I think that would keep people playing longer, as well as hey, you hit level 100 in Invasion. Here, you get this awesome looking pair of pants for your Templar, or this cape here for your Witch. I think that would keep a lot of people interested for the 4 months. And not only would it be good for the player and the community, it would also be good from a business standpoint for GGG. More streamers advertising the game, more money coming in through microtransactions, just because that's an extra month of people sticking around rather than dropping off. How do you guys feel about it?
Well, the 4-month leagues are pretty much important for GGG because developing the game, they need time to develop new content. If we had leagues sooner, they're going to be rushing out new content that may not be nearly as exciting. This was a huge update, in my opinion. There was so much really cool stuff that they added for this. And think about just the few bosses that are imbalanced right now. If they had more time to balance those out, maybe we would have less frustration in terms of maybe those 2 bosses, for example. So if we had less time, we may have way more issues than we have now. So I think that the 4-month is fine for the case of GGG. What they could do potentially is like you said with the challenges, maybe have a couple of challenges for the first 2 months, and then have a new set of challenges for the last 2 months of the league.
That's a good idea. That's a very good
something
idea.
like that. But yeah, I'm sure there's a lot of little small ideas, but I think 4 months is fine. They just need to look at something to do halfway through the season.
Piggybacking on that. And looking at the achievements, I honestly feel like it's going to be next to impossible to do the have the Vaal items, considering like just to play on pure and invasion league and expect to get all those Azeri items, I think that's going to be a pipe dream. I think that's only going to be able to be accomplished on ambush. It's kind of disheartening because my passion is with the new hardcore leagues. I don't know how I feel about that challenge in particular, but all the other challenges seem to be okay. 4 months, I'd be honestly surprised if anybody completed that challenge in a pure invasion, with the exception of that level 90 character on ambush. As far as the level 90 character, I think that's a lot more interesting than making a bunch of tunes, banging them out. You actually have to contribute to the economy to like hit 90 and actually try. And yeah, I just really, really am discouraged about those having the Vaal items. Those Azeri items are just going to be,
Yeah, well,
non-existent
hopefully,
on.
I haven't looked at the list of them. How rare are some of them is what I want to know. Like, how hard is it really going to be to get all of them? Hopefully,
you
it's
get one.
if it's less difficult than the last leagues. The last league really felt like you had to almost RMT or multi-box bot for half the 2 months or whatever to get all the currency for that. If this one is easier than that, then that's at least a step in the right direction.
Yeah, I honestly feel like it's just going to be like in an ambush league. It's just going to be a matter of people exchanging the gear and, hey, you're my friend. Here, take this gear and go kill it yourself. It's going to be done so quickly and promptly, and I would be tipped off to my hat to the first person who kills that on invasion, no doubt.
Question here for Colby. What do you think about Vaal Cold Snap? Is it 10-second freeze enemies plus 45% freeze duration from passive tree OP?
I don't know how I feel about Vaal Cold Snap itself as a gem. Cold Snap in general is a really cool spell. Now that they have like Ramirez out, you can do a self-cast Cold Snap, and I'm more excited about the new belt, which gives you extra freeze chance and life leech on freezing, because you can pretty much get up really close to 100% freeze chance with Cold Snap, and you can really just make an amazing build with that. We've already seen the self-cast Cold Snap build work out really well in the past before that belt was added, so that makes it even better. Could do some testing with the new Cold Snap that's going to be really sweet on like a trap, and the main problem I see with it is just building up the souls to use it. So the spell itself is pretty cool. I like it, but I don't know if you're going to be able to justify using it over another setup of gems.
I thought of an interesting idea with it. It has a 100% chance to freeze, correct? Am I wrong?
No.
No, it doesn't. Okay, my apologies. I thought of maybe turning it into like a Cold of Fire and making a burn, using it in a burn spec. It has a cooldown that you could still freeze with it, but as well it does, a lot of AoE damage and perhaps maybe even burn with it. Same thing with the Vaal Ice Nova. It's just my take on it.
Yeah, I believe it's the same damage as the as a regular Cold Snap. So, yeah.
My apologies. I thought it had a higher chance to freeze. That's just me not knowing.
Okay.
Well, yeah, okay, never mind. I see it here. I'm reading it. It says it always freezes enemies. Pretty much the duration of the freeze, I believe, is supposed to be based on their the damage that you do with it. I would have to test it some more, to be honest, overall. But it's a cool idea. Throw it on a trap and freeze everything. The main thing is that if you're going to be doing freeze, then you would want to do it consistently.
Yeah.
It's not consistent enough, I think, in order to be a good utility skill. Unless it's just really effective against bosses, but then again, it's a huge AoE thing. It's like it's used for packs, in which case you can just use a regular Cold Snap with increased AoE and LE Prolif, and that's better because you can just cast it once and it's good. Anyways, that's my thoughts.
Casult asks, what do you think about the barrage buff? I know Zeno did a build on it, but do Colby or Hedgie think that it's super viable DPS now? Colby?
Yeah, from what I understand, Barrage was really good before with once you hit like a certain level of crit, I don't know, like 40-50% crit chance. And so I think it's just overall better for crit builds, because from what I understand, the way it works is you hit one barrage, if you crit, then all the rest of your attacks are going to crit. And this is why I used it on my Cast and Crit Cool Rain character. So in general, it's a buff for Cast and Crit Cool Rain, and it's a buff for high crit builds, in my opinion. I don't know about versus using Frenzy I think it's just going to take a little bit of testing again, and maybe more preference too, since Barrage makes you stay still for a little bit, whereas Frenzy buffs both your